This is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and this is a special presentation of thetruthcentral.com. Thank you for joining us. We are very pleased to have Dean Heskin with us. Dean is the CEO of Swiss America, and I've worked with Dean for many, many years. Swiss America and I have been together going back to 2004, and Dean and I have just written a book together, which I'm going to show you the cover of. We're going to talk about it. It's how the coming global crash will create an historic gold rush. And it's available on The Truth Central. Of course, you can buy it from Amazon. And there's an 800 number, which will connect you to Swiss America. And you can talk with a counselor and get a free book if you want on The Truth Central's homepage. So just take a look. You'll see it very prominently in the center of the page, and the phone number is right there. And we'll put the phone number on the bottom of the screen so you can see it as we go along. It's right there, 800-520-6268. Dean, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Nice to be here.
Well, I want to start out we're talking about the historic global crash that's coming. And of course, now the government is saying, oh, well, inflation's all taken care of. It slowed down this month, so nobody has to worry. Are you believing that, Dean?
No, not believing it. We've been forever been being told by the government that, inflation is in check, inflation is in control, when in fact, different periods in the economy, of course, but in fact, the inflationary numbers, even in their best day, are manipulated to reflect really what somebody wants it to reflect. In the reality of inflation is what we see happening around us every day. Prices of everything are going up. There's going to be some rises and some dips along the way, but overall, you have American households that grocery bills have skyrocketed. The cost of just maintaining their home, albeit water, energy, what have you, utilities, that's been skyrocketing. And again, there'll be some peaks and there'll be some dips in that. But if you look at what the underlying theme is in our economy, I mean, we have personal bankruptcies that are reaching highs that we haven't seen in over 15 years right now, and that's coming from people who are having to pay inflated costs for goods, and at some point they need to figure out a way to get money or finances to pay bills to survive. And so, no, I don't believe it at all. And unfortunately, I wish this were different, but I think it's probably going to get a little worse before it gets any better.
Well, I see people. I mean, I'm watching the credit card numbers, and the amount of credit card outstanding debt is now over $1 trillion, which is amazing to me, which means that people are living on the credit cards, that people are compensating. When you go to the grocery store and see what $100 buy, it's almost shocking to me how little you can get. And they're saying, well, gasoline is down now. I guess global demand is down now. Europe's already declared a recession. But I think the manipulation of the numbers, I think that you addressed, I think people are not aware of that. And the government is completely in control of these numbers. And the government is going to politically determine how they want them to come out. So if the Fed's talking about having 1 or 2 more interest rate raises this year, I don't see inflation under control at all. Now, Dean, to go on top of that, in terms of where we're headed, it seems to me like you mentioned the bankruptcies. I'm watching these commercial real estate properties, and it's pretty alarming to see how many, are going to be in bankruptcy when they have to be refinanced. And I'm worried about that. This is going to cause like the subprime mortgage bubble bursting. I think come fall, we're going to have another mortgage bubble bursting, which could be commercial real estate. What do you think about that?
Oh, it's a very real concern. It's been discussed widely, and even a few weeks back, as you and I were having a conversation about this topic, what is going to improve the commercial real estate situation? I mean, commercial real estate depends in large part on companies hiring people, having people come into the office and work from there, et cetera. That's what makes the real commercial real estate market go. Well, in today's economy of 2023, the majority of the workforce is working from home. Even though companies have alluded to the fact that they want to start requiring or forcing people to come in, and in some cases they have, maybe on a marginal basis. Certainly not enough to cause there to be any kind of recovery in that commercial real estate market. Add to that, take San Francisco. San Francisco has an occupancy rate of, I believe, give or take, roughly 50% currently, and the city is in absolute turmoil and on every level. Homelessness, just the crime rate. I mean, corporations are pulling out of San Francisco, the Bay Area, like nobody's business right now. So it's not very difficult economics to understand that if companies are pulling out of there and workers are not utilizing that office space, there is nothing to support that commercial real estate market. And you look at the pressures and the strains that it's already on financially, it's almost like a house of cards just waiting for the right one to fall.
Yeah, that's what concerns me too. I mean, many of these buildings are in interest only because it's been historically, when you refinance, you can pay off the principal because the building's going to have appreciated. That's what we've been used to. But now you go into a building that is down in value and maybe depreciated 20, 30, or 40%. You go to refinance it, you can't pay off the previous principal on the loan that you are trying to retire. And, this is a major, I've watched, Hilton, talk about San Francisco. Hilton just walked away from its Union Square hotel, just walked away from it. I mean, basically closed it down. And the number of, San Francisco is a great example. I mean, once commercial real estate is vacant, all the other businesses that support people being downtown, the restaurants, the retail outlets, suffer. And it's happening across the country. It's not just San Francisco. I mean,
no, in fact, I just this weekend was in the city of St. Louis, and over the years I've spent time there. St. Louis is a wonderful city. Certainly not one of the biggest in the country, but just a lot of good restaurants, things to do. They're going through the same struggles as many other cities in the country. They do have their vacancy rates are up. They obviously have had some issues with civil unrest recently, and it's really sad to see. It's really disheartening, and that's the the emotional side of it. But from a mathematical side of it, as you ask about the commercial real estate market and what's going to happen there again, Jerry, can't say it enough. I'm at a loss to see what is going to cause there to be an uptick there. You do not have companies and businesses that are looking to go into these major cities and start occupying and renting space. Quite to the opposite. They, like we just talked about, they are vacating.
Yeah, it's to me. I think like to get your opinion on it, but it seems to be that the downturn economically has already started. That we are already going. I look at the number of companies that are laying people off, and it's pretty startling when you see how many companies are downsizing, and big companies, that you wouldn't think are downsizing, but it's there's a feeling about economic contraction. I mean, I'm looking and seeing just less economic activity going on, even in New York City, which is usually pretty bustling. I mean, just a measure of it, the traffic isn't as bad as it used to be in New York City. I mean, you got to go across town a little bit better, and that's just not usual. So, what do you think, Dean? Do you think it's slowing down too?
Oh, it's definitely slowing down. I mean, there's there still is the YOLO purchasing, as they call it, going on. You only live once, so buy what you can. People but other in where it's the question will be how hard will things fall.
And the other thing I want to bring up is I'm seeing the central banks going to gold. All the central banks seem to be buying gold, and in a way I haven't seen in years. There's a flight to gold, and the currencies. We are on the verge here of having a central bank digital currency in the United States. We're going to be starting to introduce this Fed Now program, which is instant payments through the Fed. So you don't have to wait for checks to clear. You can transfer money, pay bills. But again, this digital money concerns me because if all my money is digital and the government doesn't like something I've done or whatever, I mean, what happens when the electricity goes out? What if they unplug you? Where's your money?
Right. Well, the concept of digital currencies is kind of a nice concept because of the convenience factor. I mean, look, we live in a day and an age in a country and a culture that convenience reigns supreme. So that part of it, having the ability to instantaneously purchase and transact it, that sounds fantastic. I would say for myself, and I believe at Swiss America, a lot of the clientele that we talk to and deal with, probably one of the biggest concerns, and there are several, but I'd say one of the biggest when you start getting into the digital, the realm of digital currencies, is your lack and loss of privacy. Your money, your assets are, which they to some extent do and have been doing in our system for a bit, but they're very accessible. I mean, even if you look in the last few months, some of the situations like taking cryptos and whatnot, people's money just absolutely evaporated through some form of crypto theft, and there's really no trackable way to get that back. There's the privacy part of it, and the privacy on every level. And I'm not suggesting for myself and for the people that we deal with, we're not looking for privacy in terms of we're trying to hide something. It's just that if you want to keep what you have safe, one of the best ways of doing that is not letting the world know what you have and where it's at. And you do not have on any level that kind of assurance or security when you start getting into the world of digital cash. So I would say that's probably one of the big concerns. It's some of the other things is just the unknown of it. I mean, we certainly understand, I guess, based on what we've been told, that digital currencies, cryptos, et cetera, they maintain a value based on some form of a supply and demand. But it's very, I would say the average person has no understanding of exactly what that supply demand equation looks like, because it really, at the end of the day, it's like you and I looking at our computer screen, Jerry. We see pictures, we read articles, etc. But there's binary code that actually is what causes that to exist. I have no understanding and knowledge of binary code. I've got an IT guy who's got a pretty good knowledge of it, but I do not. And so, I understand the picture I'm looking at, I understand the article I'm reading, but the stuff behind it, I do not. And I think that, to me, is a good analogy of the way cryptos are. We're told, okay, here's what you have, but do we really understand what's behind what we have? And the average person, I don't believe they do.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, first of all, the dollar is a fiat dollar. It's not backed by gold or silver. And the way we're printing it, it's like a Ponzi scheme. The Treasury creates debt, Treasury bonds, and then the Federal Reserve buys them. We're buying our own debt, if that makes any sense. So just keep generating money. And crypto, there's at least the dollar has full faith and credit of the United States. Now, At some point or other, it's not going to be worth very much if we're just printing the money that we're using to pay the interest, because that it becomes worthless pretty well. But in crypto, there's nothing behind it. There's absolutely nothing. It's made up, and not by a government, by a corporation or some entity, but they haven't backed it with anything. It's just, why it goes up in value. It's almost hard to understand. But I'm sure when people call in to Swiss America and talk with the counselors, they have to have these questions. I mean, you do a lot of consultative selling. Are you getting people asking about crypto more than you have been before?
Oh, since crypto first kind of hit the scene, that's been and answer your question, yes, we do get a lot of calls and a lot of questions about it. I actually own crypto, and the reason I do is I purchased it not as an investment, not as something that I thought was going to be I bought it because I thought there was a chance that we might have to, as a company, start utilizing it in terms of receiving payment. So I was like, I need to understand it better. So I did buy it. I've held it. I understand what it's worth because I go into an account that tells me that. But there again, I mean, short of there just being buying pressure, there's really no other realistic or reasonable explanation as to what causes it to go up. There's nothing. There's nothing. Fundamental to the asset itself, and I don't even really like using the term asset because I don't even think it's an asset. It is just it's a statement that you log into online, and it says here's what it's worth. If I went into my crypto account right now and it was worth half, I wouldn't be happy, but I also would be like, I guess it's worth half, with no understanding of why it's worth half.
Right. It's kind of a mystery, and it's also difficult to use because you've got to have a crypto wallet. You've got to know the codes. I mean, I guess for kids who have grown up on computers, they're able to handle it. But for most of us who didn't have computers until we were adult, these are kind of mysterious things to deal with. And
Jerry, it's there are people do have the wallets. People can exchange them. People can purchase with them. I mean, I understand all of the nuances associated with it, that and the viability of it in today's world. It's just, again, from a standpoint of like having an asset that there is some substance there, where there's some understanding of where that value is coming from. I just don't see that. I don't see. Again, it's confident. Kind of. I mean, when the cryptos first came out, and I'm not this old, but I'm a little older than I was a lot of years ago. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of the stories like in economics we used to hear in college about tulip mania, and where it's just it's that something that came about, and people buy into the fact that there's some value there. And it's worked. I mean, it's maintained some semblance or degree of value, and it will, like tulip mania, it may work right up until the point it doesn't work anymore, and people don't believe there to be value there.
Yeah, that was a craze in Holland several hundred years ago, where people put fortunes into tulips that produced different colors. They thought they were hugely valuable until the market crashed. Then they found out they couldn't even eat the tulip bulbs; they were pretty worthless. A major theme of the book is that there's a relationship here that when we go through these economic crashes, that's when gold really starts to boom. I mean, it doubles. And we point out in the book that certainly when Nixon took us off the gold standard, it was worth $35 an ounce. Then we went through Jimmy Carter, which was an energy crisis and stagflation, inflation and economic stagnation. Reagan comes in and puts in Paul Volcker and turns the economy around. So in 1980, after being done with Jimmy Carter, gold is now at $843 an ounce. Then we go through the 2008, 2009 collapse of the subprime market. The banks fail. We have banks being bailed out. And in 2010, gold went to $1,426 an ounce. Again, not quite doubling, but dramatically increasing. COVID, again, the economy locked down. We had gold hit its high, $2,074.60 on March 8th, 2022. With this meltdown, it's probably not going to happen immediately, but the tangible value, the fact, the two things that I think about, first of all, with gold, I know I've got something of value. With the dollar, I don't know what I've got. With cryptocurrency, I don't know what I've got. And secondly, we're going to go through economic bad times, and economic bad times are going to mean that gold's going to appreciate. And you're going to be able to do something with it. You'll be able to, for 2,000 years, if you've had gold or silver, you can eat, you can live, you can do something or other to be economically viable. But you got German Reichsmarks in the Weimar Republic. You have to have a wheelbarrow of them to mail a letter. And Dean, you want to comment on that? I mean, these I think these are critical themes in our book, and why if people read it, they can begin to see that there is this causal relationship, and we track it very carefully. And we're beginning to predict it's going to happen again.
Yeah, a few things, Jerry, about that. Gold is and I've mentioned this in numerous interviews over the years. It's an unencumbered asset. There is no debt tied to a piece or an ounce of gold, let's say, that you have sitting in front of you, meaning that it does not rely on some form of counterpayment for someone to give it some value. It has value inherent to what it is, and the advantage to that is that you don't, when you have an asset that is in some way, shape, or form tied to confidence or tied to some form of debt, that's where, should there be a hiccup or any form of a glitch in the economy, you run the risk of potentially having that asset losing its value, kind of like we were just mentioning a moment ago as it relates to crypto. But another tremendous strength that I believe exists, and I can't take responsibility for this, it's been talked about for literally centuries. As you and I sit here on this conversation here today, Jerry, gold, without us having to do a thing, meaning our U.S. markets, etc., gold is actively trading in literally every currency throughout the world: yen, mark, lira, pounds, euro. You go right down the list. And why that is significant is look, there are a lot of potential financial issues or problems that are brewing here domestically. If people are following the news, if you look at what's going on in the global marketplace, there are other countries that maybe in potentially worse shape than the U.S., maybe better shape than the U.S., but still problems of their own. And point being is, like, it's been talked about, like, what about if the U.S. dollar were to crash? I mean, already due to BRICS, you have several nations who are starting to turn their back on the U.S. dollar. And if enough people, kind of like the crypto, what causes that value to go up is more people believe in it, more people buy it. Well, the converse to that is, if less people believe in it and less people buy it, that's what causes the value to go down. And if that happens with our currency or another currency, the dollar or whatever currency, which others over the course of history this has occurred, they lose their value, they collapse. And the beauty of gold is that gold does not need the US dollar to give it value. If, let's just say for discussion, there are 20 other currencies out there, one of those currencies goes away, it's the value in that asset is still supported by the other 19. And what historically would happen is if a currency, like for instance in Russia with the ruble, if a currency collapses, there's going to ultimately be some form of what stabilizes things. Some other form of currency will emerge, and what happens is that currency will assimilate itself into the global marketplace with all of the other currencies out there, and that's where gold comes into play, because it will also establish a value, that new currency will, based on the price of gold relative to the rest of the global marketplace for currencies, etc. So that's, and this is a reason why central banks and governments have been buying gold, because there are problems out there that are brewing. There are what they believe to be some situations that could prove to be of consequence should things take a wrong turn. And so that's why, again, these banks, these governments, they have been buying gold, which is why at Swiss America, what we've been encouraging people is to look at what's happening there. It's great you have a stock portfolio. It's great you have real estate, your retirement accounts, etc. The key with this is diversification. Keep your asset base there, but maybe take a little bit out of each of those little pools or whatever you can. Get yourself 10, maybe 15%. Some cases people might go a little heavier to it. We don't typically recommend more than 25%, but into diversifying that into precious metals.
And including retirement accounts. I mean, people have their retirement accounts in the stock market. They may not realize that they have mutual funds, but the mutual funds are buying stocks and bonds. That's their value. And the Federal Reserve creates bubbles. I mean, we're in another bubble right now. The commercial real estate market's a bubble. It's going to burst. And when, the economy is a bubble, it has done very well up until the pandemic. And now we thought we were recovering, but what's gone on with the inflation is, again, an indication that we had too much heated up markets stimulated by just printing money, $33 trillion national debt. We're now going to be at $1 trillion in interest payments per year, which is it's fiscal suicide. I mean, this is really insane to me. But I want to cover the point you're talking about, the consultative selling. And one of the things I've always liked about Swiss America is that you can develop a relationship with one of your counselors who will advise you. In other words, this is not just like your goal is not simply to sell gold and silver. You want to develop relationships with clients, and you want to have long-term understanding of where they're headed. Now, I think I'm right about that, Dean. I'd like you to address that point.
Yeah, Swiss America, we've been around 40 years now, and our approach has always been one of educating first, trying to get people to aid them in getting a better understanding of the marketplace, what motivates this marketplace. You mentioned retirement accounts, what is involved with, shifting money from, perhaps like a mutual fund account, a stock account from your retirement into a physical metal account, which is a very, 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 very popular thing that people are doing today. But, giving us a call, certainly there are some questions. Certainly there are some just initial fundamental things that, a person might not be aware. So we start off at, no obligation and no charge. We can send off some information depending on what a person is looking for, help give them a better understanding of, what's out there. And, the mindset or the philosophy is like, precious metals, for whatever reason, it may not be for you. I mean, in today's day and age, I don't know how it's not for everybody to some extent, but it may not be for you. If it's not, better to make that decision based on what you know about it versus just not doing it based on what you don't know about it. And that's something that has been a very effective strategy for us to, again, take that educational approach first, and then if there seems to be some value there and you can see where the benefit might exist, then we can discuss further, as to what extent and to what end you might become involved in our marketplace with our company.
Yeah, Chris has been showing on the screen that Walking Liberty $50 offer for new customers. You can get up to 250 of these coins. They're circulated, so they're not going to be numismatic quality, but they're very high content, over 90% real silver. And you're selling them, letting people one-time offer for new customers, get up to 250 of these coins. If they fill out the form on the thetruthcentral.com website, you'll be able to get in touch with them and work out if they want to buy some of the Walking Liberty $50 and then consult with them. They can also get a copy of the book by going to the website and dialing the toll-free number. Chris will run it one more time. There it is, 800-520-6268. and get introduced and discuss it. Have a discussion about gold and silver. What are your needs? What is your life situation? And I found that Swiss America has got great advice, and it's where I've turned all these years to get advice on gold and silver. Dean, one of the things that's always impressed me about your offices is you've got on the walls uh, some document signed by every president going back to George Washington. And I've always liked that. It was always a touch of both commitment to America and the value of history. And, I think there's an intrinsic value in gold and silver. It's kind of, it goes back all through the history of money. We dig up mummies or bodies we find from 2,000-3,000 years ago, and gold is what they have. Gold ornaments, gold coins, gold of one kind or another. And it's just a fundamental reality. And the hard times we're going to go through, which I wish we weren't going to go through, I think it's good we advise people right now to hedge a bit on this and to, and by the way, I also want to make the point, you're not dealing in gold certificates. A lot of these companies out there are gold certificates, and I want you to address that point because that's, I think, a critical point.
Yeah, gold certificates. It's. I mean, there's. You could even lump into that gold mining shares, gold ETFs. They're their own beast, if you will. That's their own. They have their own distinct market. There's a difference between that and actually owning physical gold. Whereas if the electronic system were to shut down, you can literally physically, which we saw incidentally during 9/11, you can physically go put your hands on this, and again, that there is a representative value there. So that when you get into when you're talking gold in the capacity or the context you and I are here today, Jerry, there's a difference between having a representation of gold and actually having the physical asset of gold, and that's what we're advocating. That's what we're suggesting is, you have something that has tangible value, tangible benefit to you.
Well, I everything that's electronic is wonderful. As you say, it's convenient. It provides us new capabilities, but I constantly wonder what happens when the electricity goes off, and what happens if the government decides to turn it off, or what happens if you're in an emergency and you're not going to get electricity for quite a long time. These are issues that I think we have to take increasingly seriously. The world is getting more dangerous, and I don't trust governments. These tools are very convenient to use. They're so convenient to use, our cell phones and all, that we put our lives on them. And I've had enough encounters with the government to know that these are not necessarily people I want to trust.
But yes, I agree with you. And one thing that I wanted to actually add to the concept of the physical gold, Jerry, that we really haven't even touched on in our conversations here recently. At Swiss America, we're not just a company that we're going to educate you and hopefully get you involved in our marketplace if it fits for you. But understand too, and this is a common question we've gotten over the years, is we work with you the entire way that you own that product, that asset, those coins, that gold. Some of the clients we work with, they prefer to hear from us maybe once or twice a month. Others maybe once or twice a year, whatever it is. We're here, to keep in touch with you, let you know how things are going in the market, because it is an asset, and even how things are doing. And I say that to also say, the question people often have is, how do I sell it? And selling it back to us is very, very easy. Really, not all that much unlike if you were to sell a security. It's a matter of placing a call. You physically send the product back into our office, or if it's in an IRA, it's held in trust. It's a matter of filling out in a depository. It's a matter of filling out a form, and we give you the price and the value right over the phone. Once it's here, we get you on with our trader and lock it in and liquidate it. And what made me think of that is, the Walking Liberty half offer, Jerry. We began doing that as a it's a promotional offer. The value of it is outstanding. When we first started doing it, it was during, I believe it started in or just prior to COVID. And it was something that, a good introductory product because the price point was great. It was, meaning from a value standpoint, it was very inexpensive. It was, we started it at $9.50 a coin because that's what the market was for them at that time. And we've already had people who purchase those, and we typically, the majority of our clients buy their product, hold on to it literally for their entire life, and in many cases even pass it along to children because it's an asset that's there if they ever need it, and if they didn't need it, just like anything else, they pass it along. But there's been opportunity already for people to have profits in their product. And what's involved with that is you just simply get in touch with your representative, or they're in touch with you, and we get it liquidated for you. So I tell you that to say it's a two-way market. It's a common question people have, and now I have it. What do I do with it? Very simple. It's both a buy-sell exchange process.
Well, in fact, they've been around for 40 years and doing this for 40 years. I mean, a lot of these companies are brand new, and they're not going to buy back from you. They're going to sell, but they're not going to buy back. And it's a relationship.
And then another thing I would add is you talked about the gold certificates, going back to that.
I had to reach over here and get my Walking Liberty $50 to show you some of them. There's some of my Walking Liberty $50.
Oh, very nice.
And,
another important thing, though, Jerry, as well, is that there are a lot of companies who will.
And they're nice coins. They're little tiny coins, but they're nice, beautiful coins. Walking Liberty is beautiful, and they're silver. Sorry.
No, one of the things too that is it can potentially be a big problem area, and more often than not, unfortunately, it is. The only time anybody should be storing your gold or your coins for you is if you have it in an IRA. It's held in a depository, and you have a trust company that acts as a fiduciary. But when the company itself is holding your metal, that is something else that you want to avoid at all costs, because you don't know what's going on with that metal. And unfortunately, in most cases, what's going on is your money's being lost. So big thing to stay away from there. It's just, you can get a safety deposit box, you can get a safe. There are a variety of different ways that you can store it. It's just better that you do it for yourself versus having someone else.
And you can help people set up the proper way to do it. So in other words, they're also not going to get disqualified by the IRS because they didn't set it up correctly. I mean,
Correct.
And which is an important issue. Well, we've covered a lot of ground. I think we're going to stay within the time. Dean, thank you very much. I know your time is valuable running Swiss America, and I'm very pleased with the book. Thank you for being a co-author. I'm honored to write it with you. And I think if people will understand the relationships that we're discussing in this book and how we have explained one of the fundamental laws of investing, which is that in economic difficult times, gold does dramatically appreciate. And that's pretty much kind of a economic rule. It's certainly an economic phenomenon that I've watched for decades. And what we want people to know that we could be coming into that again, understand it. You don't want to be in a position where you have your IRA in the stock market and it loses 10,000 points one day. The people who make decisions early in when you can buy gold at this price today, in appreciation could happen with the difficult times. It's like the stock market. If you want to stay in the stock market, I tell people, take your earnings now, because when that market start dropping, it drops very fast, and then you take losses if you get out too late. So, these are times when people should be anticipating and what the future is going to be and anticipating it realistically, so you can plan for yourself to be in a good position regardless what happens with the economy. Gold is a critical hedge to what I think is coming. Anything, Dean, you'd like to say in conclusion?
I agree with everything that you've said. I think it's been very kind of, I found it to be insightful. You reminded me of a lot of things that in day to day, I don't deal as much with clients anymore, but just reminders of, the questions you've been asking are very, very good questions that we get day in and day out. And, I couldn't encourage people, who are tuning into this enough, like, make that phone call, get some information, understand it better, because to your point, Jerry, if something bad or catastrophic were to occur, and it's not, I've been in this business personally for 30 years now, a little over 30 years. And, it used to be that the kind of things we're talking about, problems with the dollar, problems with the market, that was just us fanatical gold guys that were saying those things. But this conversation we're having today, same thing you'll hear on CNBC, MSNBC, it shows you there's a reality to these problems, and there's a breadth to the concern and understanding of these problems. It's not a liberal thing. It's not a conservative thing. It is just a real world situation and issue. So take the time, get a copy of your book, call in and get some information from our firm. Knowledge is power, as they say, and in today's day and age, especially when it comes to your finances, that's something everyone needs.
Well, I would, if people would go to our website and come to you through our website, we would greatly appreciate it. You're a sponsor, and we want to make sure, you understand how much we can contribute to Swiss America, which is our goal. And I encourage people listening, call in. You're going to enjoy talking to the counselors. You're going to be able to ask your questions. It's going to be a comfortable conversation, and you're going to get to know people that you could talk to for years. And the counselors whom I've known over the years, many of them are just great people and great values. This company has tremendous values, and I've always admired that. And I would only recommend something that I know in my heart and have experienced directly to be a top value. I'm putting my name behind it because I believe in it and I've experienced it. And so therefore, Swiss America, I think, is the go-to company if you are interested in gold and silver. And I think right now you should be at least inquiring about it to think about what gold and silver might do for you. Dean, thanks for joining us. And we look forward to more. We look forward to many more conversations. And I'll just sign off now. It's Dr. Jerome Corsi, and you joined us with a special presentation with Dean Heskin, who is the CEO of Swiss America, my co-author on this new book. And this is thetruthcentral.com. Thank you for joining us. God bless.